Hello and welcome to my channel. My name's Ali and this here is Quasar. So in this video I'm going to be talking about fur chewing in chinchillas. Firstly, I'm going to go over what actually fur chewing is. Next, I'm going to be talking about what fur chewing looks like. Thirdly, I'm going to be talking about the reasons behind fur chewing. And fourthly, I'm going to be offering a few tips on how to stop your chinchilla fur chewing if they've started. So let's get cracking. So what is fur chewing? Chinchillas do naturally groom themselves, and sometimes it can look like they're biting their fur when they do this, and they will often groom their cage mates if they have cage mates as well, which kind of looks like they're biting each other. This is perfectly normal grooming behaviour. What fur chewing is when they do this to an extreme excessive amount, and they actually end up chewing up all their fur. Which is why sometimes fur chewing is also referred to as over grooming, because that's essentially what it is. It's where they groom to an excessive amount. And if you've got a chinchilla that's fur chewing, they may not just be chewing their own fur. They may end up also chewing the cage mate's fur. Okay, what does fur chewing actually look like? With a normal chinchilla, the chinchilla's fur will be fairly uniform all over their body. Even when they're molting, the fur still should look pretty even. With a chinchilla that is fur chewing, around the hips and around the sides, basically anywhere the chinchilla can physically get to, the chinchilla's fur will be extremely uneven. Bits will be shorter than the rest, from where the chinchilla has been chewing away at their own fur. The severity of the fur chew can be quite dramatically different. Some will just have slight fur chew where the chinchillas just slightly chewed their fur, so the fur is uneven in little tiny bits, whereas some other chinchillas have it the whole way along their sides, from where they've really gone in there and chomped away at their own fur. Also, to watch out for is if you've got a chinchilla that is fur chewing, they may also start fur chewing their cage mates if they have cage mates. Just something to watch out for. Okay, so what are the reasons why your chinchilla might start fur chewing? Reason number one, your chinchilla may be stressed or bored or both. These can actually be really big triggers into your chinchilla to start to fur chew. Reason number two, in some cases it's believed that fur chewing is actually genetic and hereditary. So some chinchillas may just be predisposed to actually chew on their own fur. It's often passed down from mother to offspring, which is why any responsible breeder would not breed a chinchilla that is actually fur chewing, because it may be something in the genetics that is causing that to happen. Okay, reason number three. Similar to reason number two, it can be a learnt behaviour. So if a kit sees their mother fur chewing, they can actually learn that behaviour and think it's normal. So when they see other chinchillas do it, they start doing it themselves. So yes, that can be a reason. It can be a learnt behaviour from other chinchillas, especially when the chinchilla is young. So reason number four, your chinchilla may be unwell and may be in pain. kind of links in with the stress one from the first reason, because if your chinchilla is in pain, they are stressed and they may start chewing at their own fur. Reason number 5. Your chinchilla might not have the right nutrition in their diet. When the chinchilla's diet isn't correct, they will sometimes chew at their own fur. It's a weird one, but they do actually do this. So yeah, making sure your chinchilla is on a really good diet will actually help prevent fur chewing in some cases. Okay, so now we've talked about some of the reasons why your chinchilla might be starting to fur chew. We can talk about some tips on how to try and get them to stop. Now, please bear in mind that in some cases it can be extremely hard to reverse fur chewing once they start, because it becomes a habit. It's a little bit like when humans bite their nails. It can become a habit that is extremely hard to break, and some humans bite their nails for their entire life. And it's the same with chinchillas. It can be extremely hard to get them to stop, even when you remove whatever is causing the chinchilla to fur chew in the first place. So, bear in mind that these tips may not work, but it's worth a shot anyway. So first of all, remove any stresses that the chinchilla may be under. So if your chinchilla is in a very busy area, then maybe remove them to a really quiet room. And if your chinchilla is in an overly bright area, maybe remove them to somewhere slightly darker so they can feel a bit more comfortable. So my second tip would be to actually offer lots and lots of chews and lots of toys and lots of enrichment, because if your chinchilla is busy chewing at toys, the idea is that they won't start chewing at themselves. Obviously, this may not work, but it's worth a shot to see whether that actually causes them to stop fur chewing. So if your chinchilla is a fairly outgoing chinchilla that likes spending time outside the cage, then maybe offer them a little bit more time outside the cage, because that might help their mental stimulation a little bit. Obviously, if you've got a chinchilla that actually kind of gets stressed out by being outside their cage, then you wouldn't want to do that, because that will be putting further stresses on them. So that's another tip. So the next thing I would do is look at your chinchilla's diet and just see whether it's nutritionally okay for them and you've got them on the best diet you can. You may need to offer them some supplements if required, or you may need to offer them some alfalfa hay if it's lacking calcium or something like that. I will leave some details in the description box of what I've researched and found might be helpful for a chinchilla that is actually lacking in certain nutrition, if that makes sense. So if your chinchilla is fur chewing and you suspect it's genetic, then there's not really a whole lot you can do other than to do what I've suggested, which is basically give them lots of enrichment and lots of things to take their mind off of the idea of fur chewing. So a little bit of good news now. Chinchillas that fur chew are often perfectly healthy chinchillas. They just have a tendency to overgroom, so they can make absolutely lovely pets, and quite often are overlooked because of that fur chewing issue, which is often entirely cosmetic. It just makes them look tatty. They can live full and happy lives. They just may have a tendency to fur chew. And also I find that sometimes people are scared to put up pictures of their chinchilla if their chinchilla is in fact a fur chewer, because people jump straight to the conclusion that it's neglect. That is the reason why your chinchilla is fur chewing, which may not be the case. It may be genetics, it may be that there was stresses in the past but they've been removed or improved, and your chinchillas just continued to fur chew because it's a habit that's hard to break. A little bit like my chinchilla Bunsen, which I will show you in a minute. It can be just that. So when you see someone put up a picture of their chinchilla and it is fur chewing, don't immediately jump down their throat and say, you're neglecting your pet, because it may not be the case at all. Because sometimes perfectly happy chinchillas fur chew. It's just something they get in the habit of doing, and it's a hard one to stop them from doing. So yeah, please be kind to people that have fur chewing chinchillas, because it may not be their fault necessarily. Sometimes, yes, certainly it can be neglect and it can be boredom, but in a lot of cases it can also be genetic, or it can be a habit that they've had that they can't actually break away from. So please be kind to people, that's all I'm saying. So now I'll introduce you to my chinchilla Bunsen, and I'll explain to you why she fur chews and the fact that she's 13 and she's been doing it most of her entire life. This is Bunsen. Bunsen's nearly 14 years old and she's fur chewed nearly her entire life. And the reason behind it was that when Bunsen was 8 weeks old, she actually had a freak accident in a cage that was given to me by a breeder. And basically she broke her leg and the vet had to amputate her leg. So where the vet actually amputates her leg, ever since she's had that leg removed, she has gone down and fur chewed that area, and she started to fur chew the other side as well. Now the initial reason why she was fur chewing is stress from losing that leg. Now it's become a habit that has been going on for years and years and years, and we can't break it. It's a habit of hers. Now she is a perfectly healthy and happy 14-year-old chinchilla that has 3 legs, and she fur chews. That is one of the things that she does. So I'd like to make this a little bit of a challenge for people that have chinchillas that are fur chewing, and they often feel a little bit embarrassed about putting pictures up because they're fur chewing. Please, if you have Instagram, put a picture up and tag me in it, because I'd love to see your chinchillas, because honestly some fur chewing chinchillas are the nicest chinchillas ever, and it's such a shame that people have this horrible opinion of chinchillas that are fur chewing, which may not be the owner's fault at all. So yeah, so please be kind to people, that's all I'm saying. And yeah, thank you for watching. I hope this helps somebody that has a chinchilla that's fur chewing. As I say, it can be a hard habit to break, and sometimes you may not ever win, and it's not a big deal if you don't, because they normally are perfectly healthy, unless it's being caused by pain, in which case then yes, you might have an issue, but normally they are perfectly healthy. So please don't worry too much if your chinchilla's fur chewing. They are still lovely, adorable chinchillas. So yes, goodbye, thank you for watching.